For 48 months, Brenda had done this every single Friday.
Right on time, as always.
Wouldn't miss it, Edward. Let's get you to the other side.
6 lanes, 4 blind spots, and Philadelphia drivers who treated every red light like a suggestion. This Friday, a black sedan tore through the intersection just as the walk signal lit. Brenda heard the engine before she saw the hood. She threw her arm across Edward's chest and pulled him back, the car passing close enough to brush her coat.
You've got quick reflexes, my dear. Better than most sighted people I've known.
It's just instinct. Don't let go now.
She guided him the rest of the way, the tremor in her hand the only sign of how close it had been.
Thank you, Brenda. Same time next week.
She smiled, said, "I'll be here." But the moment she turned away, the weight she carried the other 6 days, the overdue notices, the overtime shifts, the piece of paper taped to her fridge that she couldn't bring herself to look at, pulled at every muscle in her back. She opened the apartment door just before midnight, the hinge squealing a familiar note of exhaustion. On the coffee table, a stack of final notices. Rent, electric, water, none of them could wait until payday. She pushed open the door to his room. Action figures lined the shelf. A drawing of a family, stick figures with crayon smiles, was taped to the wall.
Mommy's home, baby.
Then she walked to the kitchen. The paper was still there, taped to the refrigerator. The one she'd been avoiding since morning. Superior Court, hearing date the 14th of November. Petitioner Marcus Jefferson, respondent Brenda Jefferson. Custody of minor child Mullick Jefferson.
He's calling me unfit because I work nights, because I can't be here every bedtime.
Her ex-husband's attorney had been blunt. The night audit made her an unfit parent, but it was the only shift that paid enough to keep Malik in that school, in those books, in that bed.
Every Friday. I cross that street with a man I don't know, but I can't be here to tuck in my own son.
She sat down at the table, the custody notice between her hands. 5 days until the hearing. No plan, no safety net. Only the desperate hope that a judge would see a mother, not just a schedule. Brenda smoothed her uniform and slid behind the front desk. The night audit shift began at 11. 3 hours into the shift, her eyelids burned, and the coffee from 10 hours ago was a distant memory. Her supervisor passed by and muttered something about cutting back on overtime. She just nodded.
If he only knew why I need this shift. Every penny for Malik.
One Friday last month, halfway across Market Street, Edward said something she kept close.
You know, I've been retired for years. This walk is the best part of my week. The small constants, Brenda. They keep us human.
Brenda blinked the memory away. A guest approached the desk, and she straightened, smile in place.
3 more hours. Then home to Malik. Then the hearing. Just get through it.
She was running on fumes, but the Friday crossing was non-negotiable. It was the one thing that cost nothing and meant everything. The morning of the hearing, she stood in front of the mirror, smoothing the beige blazer she'd thrifted 2 years ago. She fastened the gold cross necklace her grandmother gave her at 16. It was the only thing that felt like armor.
Please, let them see a mother. Not a night shift.
You look pretty, Mom. Are you going to that court thing?
Just a meeting, baby. I'll be home before you know it.
She hugged him so tight he squirmed, then pressed his lunchbox into his hands and sent him out the door, her smile cracking only after he turned the corner.
I work nights, so my son can have a future. That has to count for something.
She pulled out the custody notice, unfolding it for the 100th time. The creases were soft as cloth. The 14th of November, today. The bus stopped, and she stepped onto the sidewalk. The federal courthouse rising like a fist of granite and glass. She climbed the wide steps, her heels echoing the beat of her heart. Every step felt like a verdict. She pushed open the heavy door and stepped inside. The courtroom was empty, the flags still, the judge's bench waiting. The silence pressed against her ears, heavier than any sound. Within minutes, the empty benches filled. Alicia slid a notepad toward her, but Brenda couldn't focus on the words. Across the aisle, Marcus stood with his attorney, Richard Cross, who wore a smirk like a second suit.
Brenda, look at me. You are a good mother. Stick to the truth.
The truth is, I work nights, and they'll twist that into something ugly. Don't let him see you shake.
Richard Cross tossed a folder onto his table, the sound echoing like a gauntlet thrown.
All rise. The United States District Court for the Eastern District of Pennsylvania is now in session. The Honorable...
A side door opened. A bailiff stepped through first, then a figure in black robes. Brenda caught only a sliver of white hair and a cane before the judge disappeared behind the bench. The clerk's voice had been clear before, but the judge's name stayed buried under a cough.
God, let him be fair. That's all I ask.
The gavel fell. The hearing began. A low, steady voice came from behind the bench. A voice she'd heard 100 times, but never in this room. Brenda's spine stiffened.
Number. That's impossible. You are just tired. Focus.
Counsel, please, state your appearances for the record.
Richard Cross for the petitioner, Marcus Jefferson.
Alicia Warren for the respondent, Brenda Jefferson.
Richard Cross rose again, this time for his opening statement. His voice dripped with rehearsed scorn.
Your Honor, this case is about a mother who chose a night shift over her own son. Every evening, she abandons their child to work a job that pays the bills, but costs the boy his parent. The petitioner seeks primary physical custody on the grounds that Miss Jefferson's work schedule makes her an unfit parent. The child has suffered emotionally.
He's making me sound like a stranger to my own son. I work so Malik can eat, can grow, can dream.
Alicia's hand pressed gently on her arm. Steady, grounding. Brenda inhaled deeply.
Miss Jefferson, could you describe your current work schedule and how it impacts your time with your son?
That voice. Every Friday. It can't be. I am imagining it. I work 11 to 7, 5 nights a week. My sister watches Malik until I get home.
She squinted toward the bench, but the man's dark glasses and the low courtroom lights turned his face into a silhouette. The white hair, the tilt of the head, it could be anyone. Richard Cross called his first witness. The testimony painted Brenda's night shifts as neglect. The school administrator took the stand and claimed Malik was always the last child picked up from aftercare.
But his homework was always turned in, wasn't it? His teachers described him as a joy to teach. Isn't that right?
They're twisting everything. I am not neglectful. I am surviving.
The morning dragged on. 2 more witnesses for Marcus. Alicia objected 3 times. Each objection sustained, small victories that didn't slow the assault.
That voice still echoes in my head. Every instinct screams it's him, but it makes no sense.
Miss Jefferson, please stand, face the court, and state your full name for the record.
Brenda pushed her chair back, the wooden legs scraping against the floor like a gavel. She could barely hear her own voice.
Brenda Marie Jefferson.
The judge's hand went to his glasses, not to push them up, to pull them off. For one still moment, his naked eyes found hers, blue-gray oceans she'd never seen. The courtroom around them dissolved into a held breath. Lawyers, flags, benches all vanished.
It's her, the same Brenda.
Edward's hand shook as he set the glasses on the bench. 4 years of Fridays crystallized in a single stare. She heard his voice, not from the bench, but from the street corner. The small constants, Brenda. They keep us human. The gavel stayed untouched. No one spoke. The only sound was the hum of the lights, waiting. He brought the gavel down once. The silence that followed was absolute.
I am recusing myself from this case. I have a long-standing personal relationship with Miss Jefferson that prevents me from presiding.
Objection. The court is making a mockery of these proceedings.
Mr. Cross, I have held this woman's arm every Friday for 4 years. That is not a mockery. That is a fact. Recusal is mandatory.
Edward rose slowly, placing his palms on the bench. When he spoke again, the room felt smaller.
I have known this woman to be a person of unfailing kindness for 4 years, on the public street, when she had no reason to know who I was. That is all I will say.
Brenda's hand flew to her mouth. Her lawyer caught her elbow as she sagged.
The court reassigns this matter to Judge Vivian Cole. All parties will be notified of a new hearing date.
Your Honor, on behalf of the petitioner, we strongly object and will file a motion to strike the entire record.
The judge, who had been Edward, turned and, without meeting anyone's eyes, stepped through the side door. He did not look back, but Brenda, through tears, saw his left hand tremble on the frame. The corridor outside the courtroom buzzed with confusion, but Alicia pulled Brenda into a quiet alcove.
Edward's statement will be hard to strike from the record. This could change everything.
But they'll twist my kindness into something calculated. Marcus won't stop.
Richard Cross's voice carried. He was threatening to file a motion to strike the entire record. Then Brenda saw him, Edward, being escorted by a bailiff through a side exit. Their eyes met, no words, just a nod, barely perceptible.
He recused himself for me, a federal judge, and he said I was kind.
She didn't remember the bus ride home. Her feet carried her up the stairs, the custody notice still folded in her pocket like a stone. Malik was already sleeping, his action figures lined up on the nightstand. She didn't wake him.
Mommy's still here, baby, and I am not going anywhere.
But neither she nor anyone else knew what Judge Cole would see. The wait began. Brenda spent the next morning pacing her apartment, Edward's number written on a scrap of paper she never dialed.
If I call him, his words will look like a bribe. I can't risk it.
Instead, she took Malik to Clark Park. Swings and sunshine, her antidote to the dread that lived in her ribcage.
Mom? Look, I am flying higher than the trees.
She watched him, and her mind drifted back. 4 years ago, a different corner. A white-haired man frozen at the curb, traffic whipping past. She hadn't known his name, just a blind man who needed an arm. She crossed with him that Friday, then every Friday after.
There was no thought of reward, only instinct. That's who I am. Not a schemer, just someone who helps. Malik, you know, I love you more than anything, right?
The new hearing was 3 days away. She would not call Edward. She would let her life speak. The courtroom was smaller this time. Judge Vivian Cole's eyes gave nothing away.
Miss Jefferson, you expect us to believe you had no idea who Edward was when you crossed that street every Friday?
His name was Edward. That's all I knew. I never saw his face without sunglasses. I never asked his last name.
Yet somehow you ended up in his courtroom. Coincidence or careful cultivation of a judicial ally?
I didn't cultivate anything. I just held his arm so he wouldn't get hit by a car.
Alicia objected, her voice sharp, asked and answered, "Your Honor." Judge Cole sustained, but her gaze remained fixed on Brenda.
Your Honor, the respondent's son is thriving. School reports, letters from teachers, medical records, all confirm Malik is happy and healthy.
I will take this matter under advisement. You'll receive my ruling in writing. This court is adjourned.
I told the truth. I didn't call him. I didn't scheme. Now it's out of my hands.
She gathered her bag and walked out into the hallway. The echo of the gavel still rang in her chest. The verdict could be days, weeks. No one could say. The hallway was nearly empty when Marcus stepped directly into her path.
You think this is over? I win. You'll never see Malik again. I'll move out of state.
Brenda's spine went rigid. The air left her lungs.
He'd do it. He'd take my son.
Alicia appeared so fast Marcus flinched. She stepped between them, her voice a blade.
Back off, Marcus. That's witness intimidation. Another word and I'll have you cited.
This isn't finished.
Brenda's knees buckled. She pressed her back to the wall and wept.
Listen to me. You told the truth. Edward told the truth. That's what matters. The truth is stronger than his lies.
Brenda wiped her face, pressed the gold cross close, and walked back into the courtroom. Whatever came, she would face it standing. Judge Cole hadn't left yet. She was writing a note. When she saw Brenda re-enter, she set down the pen.
Miss Jefferson, I understand you have something you'd like to add?
I just want you to know. I never asked Edward's last name. I never knew he was a judge. I just held his arm because he needed it. I work nights, so my son can have the same chances I never got. I am not absent. I am present in every way that matters.
The courtroom was utterly silent. Judge Cole did not interrupt.
Kindness isn't a strategy. It's who I am. And if you take Malik from me, you'll take the only thing that makes the long nights mean something.
Alicia stepped forward and placed Malik's report cards on the clerk's table. Straight A's, perfect attendance, a note from his teacher. Malik is a ray of light.
Miss Jefferson, I have heard enough. I will rule on this case within 2 weeks, in writing.
Enough. Not, I believe you. Not, he's safe. Just enough.
Judge Cole stood, and the bailiff called the session closed for the final time. Brenda left the courtroom, with her heart suspended between hope and terror. As she walked toward the exit, Marcus's voice slithered behind her.
Don't get comfortable. She'll see through your little act.
Richard Cross placed a heavy hand on his client's shoulder, but his own eyes never left Brenda. The clerk's voice came from inside. Court is adjourned. The heavy doors clicked shut behind Brenda.
2 weeks. I have to wait 2 weeks, with Marcus's threat echoing in my head.
That night, she sat in the dark of her living room. The overdue notices seemed 100 miles away.
I told the truth. I didn't call Edward. I did it alone.
She pressed her hand against the drawing Malik had made, a stick figure of a mother and son. Somewhere in the courthouse, Judge Cole was reading the transcript. Somewhere, a decision was forming. Brenda did not sleep that night. She waited, and the city waited with her. The Fridays came and went. Brenda crossed Market Street, worked the night audit, tucked Malik in, and waited. 2 weeks felt like 2 months. One crisp afternoon, after a crossing, she and Edward sat on a bench in the Pocket Park on Market.
I haven't heard a word from Judge Cole, but I've had faith in the system for 47 years.
I wasn't sure faith was enough, but I never asked you to step in.
You did the right thing, not calling me, not trying to influence. I am proud of you, Brenda.
She returned home that evening. On the kitchen table sat a thick envelope. United States District Court. The stamp said final. Her name printed in heavy black letters.
This is it. Everything changes now.
She carried it to the living room, her knees threatening to buckle. She set it on the coffee table and stared. Outside, the city hummed, unaware that a mother's life hung on the words inside. She couldn't wait another second. She tore open the envelope, the paper ripping through the silence of the apartment. She unfolded the ruling. 5 dense pages, and forced her eyes to the top of the first paragraph.
This court finds the respondent, Brenda Marie Jefferson, to be a fit and proper parent.
And does hereby grant her sole physical and legal custody of the minor child, Malik Jefferson. She read the sentence 3 times, her hands shaking harder with each pass. It was real.
We won. Oh God, we won.
The sound that came out of her was half laugh, half sob. She stumbled toward Malik's room, calling his name.
Malik, baby, come here. We won. We get to stay together.
He ran into her arms, both of them crying, their bodies shaking with the weight of everything that had been lifted. Brenda held her son in the fading light and let the tears fall. For the first time in 4 years, she was not afraid. That evening, the celebration was simple. Hot dogs, grape soda, and the court orders still in Malik's pocket as he bounced on the couch.
Mom, does this really mean I don't ever have to go back to Dad's again?
Never, baby. The judge gave you to me. This house is yours forever.
She kissed his forehead, then glanced at the clock. It was time to tell Edward. She walked the 6 blocks to Edward's townhouse, the ruling tucked under her arm like a gift.
Brenda, I know that knock. Is everything all right?
More than all right. We won, Edward. I got full custody. I had to tell you in person.
I never doubted it. Your kindness was always the evidence they needed.
For a long moment, they just sat there, an old judge and a night auditor, 2 people bound by a street corner, now bound by so much more. The next Friday, the crossing felt different. Lighter, as though the traffic itself had slowed to celebrate. Edward laughed. Brenda laughed. The ritual had become a reward. 1 year later, the Wednesday before Thanksgiving, Brenda's apartment smelled of cornbread and collard greens. Edward sat at the head of the table, carving knife in hand, his white hair catching the candlelight.
Tell me if I am hacking this bird to pieces. The bench is easier.
You are doing great, Mr. Edward. Just don't break the platter.
Hush, both of you. Hands. We're saying grace.
3 hands joined across the table, calloused, small, and worn by decades on the bench. The silence was full.
Lord, thank you for this food, and for this man who walked into our lives on a street corner.
After the pie, Edward sat back and looked at them. A family not born of blood but built of time and trust.
You know, I've never had a Thanksgiving like this. Thank you for letting an old man in.
And just like that, he was no longer just the Friday crossing. He was family. 11 years later, on a bright June morning, the high school auditorium was a sea of caps and gowns. Edward, now 90, stood at the podium in his judicial robes, the same ones he'd worn when he recused himself for Brenda.
Malik Thomas Jefferson.
The pause before the name was deliberate. Edward found Brenda's eyes in the crowd and held them. Malik walked across the stage, tall and sure. He took the diploma, and Edward leaned forward.
Your mother's love built you into the man you are today. I am honored to hand you this.
Thank you, Judge. I had a good teacher.
That's my boy. And that's the man who gave us a future.
In the front row, Brenda pressed the gold cross to her lips. Her tears fell freely, but her smile never wavered. The applause was thunderous, but for her, the only sound was the echo of a street corner and a blind man's grateful voice. Years later, the Friday crossing remained. Their steps had slowed, the cane tapping a slower rhythm, but the ritual never missed.
Every Friday for nearly 2 decades. I can't imagine my life without this crossing.
And I can't imagine my life without you. You gave us justice, Edward, when we had none.
And you gave me a family when I was alone. The record of kindness is balanced.
They walked on, the cane and her arms swinging in unison, their feet finding the curb together. Later, on the old park bench, his hand rested on hers. The gold cross necklace still caught the light. The city roared, but here there was only gratitude. Then they rose and crossed again into the evening light, bound by a street corner forever. The ritual never ended. It became the story they wrote together, and the city, blind and rushing, never knew the weight of what passed between them each Friday. On a narrow mantel in a quiet living room, 3 things rested that had made a family. A framed photograph from that first Thanksgiving, 3 faces, 1 table, and a turkey carved by a judge, a gold cross necklace, the same one she'd clutched in the courtroom light, and the silent record of 48 months of Fridays, a kindness given without knowing who would receive it. These things didn't shout. They just told the truth. Some gifts are given in the dark and only lit up by the daylight of need. Outside, the city roared on, oblivious, but somewhere, an old man crossed a street with a friend, and somewhere, a boy grown into a man remembered the evening his mother came home and said, "We won." It had never been about the verdict. It was about holding on,